First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, and everyone here today for the opportunity to talk about Six Paramitas. So we are on number 4, which is diligence or vigorous effort. Well, includes vigorous effort. But before we get into this, let's see, made a mistake last time. So basically, last time talked about this forbearance, and last time there was an incorrect translation. So I'm going to correct that here. It's the second one here where it should have been, it should say, having suffered indignities in life, we can still die with our dignity. In the end, we can achieve true emptiness. Okay, so the other one actually didn't kind of make sense, didn't fit in here, but this one is correct. So basically, so we're going to suffer indignities in life, regardless, right? So we're going to be taken advantage of at times, be insulted, be, slandered, suffer all sorts of other indignities or, dishonors, or whatever. But the question is how we deal with it, right? So we deal with it in terms of, we use forbearance, right? So if we do that, instead of like arguing or fighting back or whatever, if we use forbearance, we endure it, right? We take it and we don't get angry, all that. So then, when we die, we'll still have our dignity, right? Because we kept our dignity by using forbearance. And then so in the end, if we do that, we can achieve true emptiness, or, as well, sunyata, or you say nirvana. Okay, in the end, we are able to transcend life and death and achieve nirvana. So it'll be worth it. Okay, so we have to keep in mind what our ultimate goal is. Realize that it's not, for the sake of achieving nirvana, let's say, transcending this cycle of life and death. Yeah, we should think about that. That's the ultimate goal, and so we should be able to endure, bear with these things that happen to us. I mean, it's going to happen, in our lives, and so if we can take it, then we can achieve the ultimate goal. Okay, so it's definitely it's worth doing that. Okay, let's go back. All right. Okay. So basically, diligence is, it's vigorous effort and earnest or hard work. It's both, but it's both internal and external, right? It's also taking initiative to doing things, okay, to learn and to apply what we learned. With the right having the proper, the good right attitude, and also doing it with vigor. Okay, so it's all these things, right? It's not just not just hard work. We also need to know what we should be putting our effort into. Okay, so that's the other side. That's why there's also the learning, right? Okay, so the chief examiner, 3 realms. He says to learn from the 12 divisions of the Mahayana canon. Okay, so this is it's basically all the canon. I mean the Buddhist teachings. Okay, so it's in terms of the Mahayana tradition, they divide it into like 12 different categories of teachings. So you have the sutras, which we normally we study, like the Heart Sutra, Diamond Sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra, etc. Okay, so, and then there are the Gamas, the Vinayas, the Jataka tales, all sorts. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. But anyways, so we just learn from, the teachings of the Buddha, maintain faith and practice by devoting one's efforts to, okay, so Reciting what one has not yet recited. Obviously, it's reciting the sutras. Actually, for us, actually, all those Buddhist sutras are pretty long. I think the shortest one is the Heart Sutra, which is 260 Chinese words. But the other ones are kind of long, and reciting doesn't necessarily mean reciting from memory. Okay, so you can just read. Okay, let's say we read them. We can read them as well. Okay, so and then to practice what one has not yet practiced, to attest to what one has not yet attested. Okay, so basically this is kind of saying, it's keep pushing ourselves. So that's really working hard, right? So it's not like, I know I recite the Heart Sutra, and so that's it. That's all I do. Okay, so we're not really pushing ourselves. We're not. That's not diligence. Okay, so obviously we can be diligent in reciting that one sutra, but it's we need to push ourselves more to test our limits, to push our limits basically. So things that we have not yet done, we should try to do. Okay, practicing, yeah. So obviously a lot of things that we learn, we study and learn, and there are a lot of principles, but we have to apply them in our lives. Otherwise what are we learning them for? It's to they're applicable. They're practical principles. They can be applied in our lives. So we must practice. That's part of cultivation. Cultivation is to practice. Okay, so we can't leave that out. We have to practice. And to attest it to, you can say that's like proving or confirming or to prove this Tao. Okay, prove these principles are real. They're true. Okay, so and we prove them in our lives. We prove them to ourselves. We have to prove the Tao to ourselves before we can prove it to anyone else, right? If we don't prove it to ourselves, then it's just, and we're just, how can we prove it to anyone else? We're just, whatever knowledge we have about the Tao, then we're just repeating it to someone else. That's not necessarily going to convince anyone. Okay, so that's why we say, the Tao has to be experienced, right? So it's through the practice and proven through that practice. Okay, and then only in that way. So it's basically we have the realization, the internalization of the Tao. We are the Tao. And once we are the Tao, then, we've proven it. We've proven to ourselves the Tao. And then we can prove to others. Okay, we don't necessarily have to prove to others, but we have to at least prove it ourselves. And then as we are practicing and we talk to people about it, it will be easier to kind of guide them, and they might be able to accept. Okay. You can say that there's a saying, right? Necessity is the mother of all inventions. Right? We have to reinvent ourselves to meet new challenges. Now, cultivation is a personal challenge, right? No one can force us to cultivate. So we must take the initiative to push ourselves. Okay, so again, initiative is you can say one of the characteristics, I guess, of diligence. Okay, we have to take the initiative. We can't have people or wait for people to tell us, oh, you got to do this. This is something you have to do. If we're just sitting around waiting for someone to tell us, that they might not, no one might tell us, and then so we won't do anything. So how do we achieve anything, accomplish anything? So we have to push ourselves to take the initiative to do things, okay? To challenge ourselves to achieve and to succeed. We are under the wrong assumption that we are limited. Okay, that's another thing, is that we tend to believe that, this is all I can do. Or I'm not comfortable doing more than this. Okay, we are limited, physically and even mentally, but these are just tools, right? Our body and our mind and the knowledge, these are just tools for us to use. The real source of our inspiration and faith, our true essence, the Buddha nature, that's the source, has no limits. So rather than creating artificial limits for ourselves, we have to let go of these limits and use the Buddha nature, wisdom, to guide us to achieve the difficult or even maybe even the impossible. Okay, so at least in our mind, we think that maybe something is impossible for us to do, yet if we can let go of the artificial false limitations that we imposed on ourselves, maybe we can achieve it. Okay, so that's something. So again, this is all, diligence, putting in that effort, that vigorous effort to try to achieve something more than what we're used to. Okay. Okay, so the sutras contain profound wisdom as deep as the ocean. Reading a sutra is beneficial. Now, this is even if we don't understand the sutra, we can read the sutras and maybe the words, we understand all the words, but what does it really mean? Maybe we don't get the real deep meaning. That's okay. I mean, at first, even just reading sutras is beneficial. Okay, but of course, it's better to know what it's talking about, really. Then we can. That's the only time we can apply it to our lives, right? So put it into practice. If we don't know what it really means, then or the principles that it's talking about, then we can't really apply it. So at the superficial level, people, they recite sutras. That's partly also you can say a training for the mind, okay, to have focus, concentration on just that reciting of the sutra, and clearing our mind, and not think of anything else, not letting anything else bother us at the time. Okay, so complete focus. That's that at the one level that's what reciting is for. But we also want to understand, know what the sutras are really trying to tell us what to do, how we can apply that in practice. Okay, so it's diligently study, to thoroughly understand and pray for the great awakening, okay, or, the ultimately to enlightenment, right? So we have to study hard to really understand, because all these sutras actually, there might be kind of you can kind of read it at a surface or superficial level, and it could say something, but sometimes you have to dig deeper to really get the hidden meaning. Okay, diligently practice unified knowledge and action, unify our speech and action. Okay, so beside so the two aspects, we study and learn, and then we implement, we practice, okay, what we learned. And making sure that, what we know, that we have to put into action. Okay, so we don't just, I learned all these things in class, these principles, but I don't apply it, then that's wasted, okay? So we can't do that. And also, obviously, when we talk about it, we should also do it. Okay, so, we don't want to be hypocritical, hypocrites in saying one thing and doing another. So we have to kind of, besides talking the talk, walk the talk, or walk, so, Confucius has a disciple called Zhenzi who has his 3 introspections, right? He says, have I been trustworthy to my friends? Right? Have I been faithful in my dealings with others? Have I practiced what I've learned? Okay, so so basically, he's making sure that everything that he learns, he puts it in practice, because that's what makes it real, right? Not just the knowledge. Keep in mind that the Tao is formless and can only be realized and attested to or proven through practice. Okay, so it's not just the knowledge. The knowledge, just learning, reading all the books, sutras, and just learning and learning without practice, there's no way to prove the Tao. Okay. The purpose of knowledge is to help us to practice and correct our wrong views as well. Okay, so all right. So Chief Examiner continues to say, the self nature is Buddha. Okay, there is no other Buddha. So again, this thing about the Buddha is formless. Okay, it's not the external Buddha. The Buddha is within us. It is us. It's our true nature, our self nature. Okay, that is the Buddha. And so we need to realize that. Like the sixth patriarch, Huineng, he says, right, from now on, take awareness as a teacher. Okay, so awareness, wisdom, we have to be aware. And this awareness is, it's coming from that Buddha nature, right? So, and do not enter the path of evil and deviant practices. Okay, once we, once we understand the path of the truth, this Tao, this path of Tao, the path of that all Bodhisattvas and Buddhas have taken before us, that is the true path. We should not seek any other types of practices, if you will. Okay, always prove to oneself the three treasures of the self nature. So our true nature embodies the three treasures. Okay, right. So remember, we receive the three treasures when we receive the Tao, but we say we receive it, but it's what we receive to some knowledge. Okay, so and also, it's the opening of the first treasure. Okay, but we have to prove it to ourselves. This is actually us. The three treasures is a part of us. Okay, and return to the pure land of the self nature. Right, prove that the self nature is the pure land. Prove that the self nature is Laomu or God. Okay, so yeah, ultimately, this self nature, this Buddha that's within us, it's the pure land. It's also God, actually. Because the true nature, the essence, is part of God, right? So, okay. All right. So, getting to Holy Teacher's scripture, diligence. Right, is, okay, so an aspiration takes shape with absolute sincerity. Follow the original sincerity from beginning to end. We all have goals, or we should have, at least, you can say our big goal, our primary goal is to make sure that we can transcend this cycle of life and death and return to our true home, return to heaven, nirvana, whatever, okay. But we have many goals, I guess, and aspirations. Now, it starts with sincerity, having sincerity, and sincerity and faith. Okay, so these things, I say, so with absolute sincerity. Okay, so with that starts to take shape. If we don't have that sincerity, we don't have that faith, we cannot achieve any goals. We can't really even accomplish, part of the goal. Okay, so and we have to have that sincerity from the beginning, from the moment we are inspired or inspired to set that goal, have that aspiration to the end in terms of achieving it in the end. So we have to maintain that sincerity all the way through. Okay, and that's what will allow us to achieve, to be successful. I gradually and deeply make progress. Study every day what we already know, what we have learned. We have to make progress every day. Now, it doesn't have to be fast. The how fast, it doesn't matter. Actually, Holy Teacher says, it's not how fast or how don't worry about being too slow. Okay, it's just that as long as we need to make progress. All right, so everyone's different. Everyone's situation, our foundation, is different, and so don't feel like I have to try to keep up. We have to do it at our own pace, our own affinity. Okay, so. And we can't force people to try to they have to cultivate faster. Or make quicker progress. It's better to have, again, its emphasis on quality over quantity, okay, or speed in this case, right? Make sure that, yes, if we make progress, that, I will not then slip back and regress from that, okay? And then, study again. So we have to kind of review. Sometimes so we've attended so many classes, but, and we say, oh, yeah, I learned all these things already. I've heard this before, but do we really study, do we really understand it? And do we really put it into practice? Okay, so the study, making sure that we review these things that we've learned before, and knowing that, because sometimes, we learn something and we think, oh, yeah, I understand it. But then later on, after some time, after we started practicing, we've experienced something, and then we have a greater understanding of it, okay, or deeper understanding. So this is something that we have to kind of continuously do. It's not like, oh, I heard it once, I learned it, I understand it, and then that's it. You kind of store it away. But really, sometimes we have to be able to recall it at any time and be able to apply it, okay, anytime. Keep in mind the method or the way, work hard over and over again, okay? So again, whatever we've learned, again, always, all these principles that they're like at our fingertips, that we can use them at any time that's needed, okay? And then we have to keep working hard, right? So we can't slack off. And the fourth paramita is the stairway of Tao, leading to achieving the higher levels, okay? So therefore, this diligence is it's a necessity. It's one of the necessities of cultivating to achieve Buddhahood, right? So the first four, the first words here, it's basically, yeah, so it's just diligence. Diligence, I guess, is since there's no like other prepositions or anything here, but you can say diligence in propagating the Tao, or we have to be diligent in propagating Tao, okay? All right. Okay. So diligence is the passion of working towards goodness and advancement all in one go, okay? So yeah, we, of course, we put in diligent, this diligence, or this hard work, this effort into, working towards the goodness, okay? So our virtues, right? Applying these principles that we learn, and performing, these other, all the paramitas, the 6 paramitas, all these things. And with that, then we can advance, okay? Advance in our progression, in our cultivation, okay? So diligence is the proposition of striving for time and enriching us with space. Yeah, if you, I originally was trying to kind of translate this as the urgency, being urgency. But anyways, this, if we can work hard, be very diligent, be earnest and sincere effort in cultivating, basically, then, we can kind of gain time, if you will. Okay, so yes, we do have to spend time, obviously, in learning and doing things, but actually it gains in another sense. We gain time as a result. Okay, so remember, karma is trying to is catching up to us, right? And so we also, the more we do, more time and effort that we put into cultivation, then that puts a greater lead onto, puts us further away from that karmic retribution. Of course, it can also, reduce it as well through the merits. Okay, So it also, so this will actually, it'll enhance us. Okay, we will be more enhanced spiritually and through our diligent practice. Diligence is the ideal of always getting to the details and the root of the matter. So so it's not just the surface, it's not just the rudimentary or superficial type of doing things. Okay, so we really want to do a good job. I mean, do it well, whatever it is. Okay, that we're practicing or learning, studying to do it well. Right, and getting to the root. So it's getting to the heart of the matter, getting to the main, the real point of it. Okay, so it's not just again. So this, Holy Teacher keeps emphasizing it's not. Our cultivation should not be superficial. Okay, it needs to be more profound. Diligence is the promotion of zealous learning and diligent effort. Right, so basically. That's what we, the really learning, like we really want to learn and, to really put in the effort, the hard work to achieve our goals. Okay, so that's what this diligence is all about. Okay, all right. Okay, so diligence is the energy of resourcefulness in propagating Tao and maintaining spiritual energy. So the energy of, if we can put in, if we have that sincerity, we have that earnestness, the diligence to practice in propagating Tao. I mean, that's this is basically it's very resourceful, right? So when you're propagating Tao, if you know what to do and you do it well, then that's what we need, right? You don't want to go out and propagate the Tao and no one knows what they're doing. Okay, so. And so this will actually, it's kind of, it's this energy, we put in the energy and it builds up that energy, that maintain that having the spiritual energy around us. So diligence is the bustle of taking the initiative to participate and quickening one's pace. So again, we have to take the initiative to participate in whether it's, propagating Tao or other Tao affairs. And we quicken our pace. Well, it's not necessarily the speed, but realize that we need to push ourselves. Okay, so we can't just kind of be too relaxed and the time. I mean, unfortunately we're living in the white era, which is the time of calamities and. So we have to, the mission is to save sentient beings, and so that's we need to kind of quicken our pace. Don't be too slow because sometimes, the karma might catch up to us. So, but again, take initiative. Don't, I think President Kennedy once said, right? Don't ask what the country can do for you, right? Ask what you can do for the country, right? So take the initiative, right? To do something, to get involved and to do it, okay? Or even to learn, take the initiative to learn, all right? Diligence is the culmination of never parting with the sutras and scriptures. So we should never, when we learn from the sutras and scriptures, we should never leave them, right? So that's one of the three things that, right, we do not leave or depart from, right, is the scriptures. And so basically, or the sutras. And so obviously, the other meaning is that, well, when we learn from these things, that we should not forget them. Okay, so we learn it and we accumulate it. We accumulate this, it's knowledge at first, but then as we practice it, then we accumulate that experience from them, and also kind of you can say that there's some more intangible stuff that we accumulate as well. Whether it's more greater awareness, greater insight, greater inspiration, all these things that come as a result of it. Okay, but again, we should definitely not forget what we learn. Okay, always keep it in mind, and that again, it's available to us. Everything that we learned, it's available to us at any moment. That we might need it. Okay, that we can recall it and say, oh yes, we don't have to think explicitly to say, consciously think about, I need to apply this principle, but it just comes out and it's available to us that we can just apply it in whatever situation we're in. Diligence is the prescription for taking initiative and seizing opportunities. All right, so again, don't wait for someone to give us an opportunity. We should see an opportunity. When we see an opportunity, we should take it in terms of cultivation, really. So anytime we have the opportunity to cultivate or to learn, we should do that, right? Don't let it, if we let it slip by, we may not see another opportunity, or, it could be a while, or we may, if we passed up on that again, remember that life is impermanent, life is unpredictable, anything can happen. Okay, so again, we have to think that this right now is maybe this is the only moment or the last moment that I have to do this, and so do it. Okay, don't wait. Right. I know human nature is probably one where we tend to procrastinate, but that's where we can get into trouble. Right. All right. Diligence is the vital organ of traveling step by step from near to far and remaining humble at the peak of achievement. All right. So, it takes we don't take leaps and bounds to achieve our goal. That's hard to do. I mean, we all have to do it gradually, step by step along the way. Okay. So cultivation, there's no shortcut in cultivation. Right? We have to, all the little things, we have to do them. Okay, so even, for someone who's an advanced cultivator, they still have to observe the precepts. They still have to do the basic stuff. That's always there. We always have to do that. Okay, so the step by step, and then we build up gradually. We build up on that, on each one of those. But as we build up, it doesn't, the stuff that we built upon, we still have to do those. Still have to practice those. Okay. All right. And then but once we do achieve in the end, we have to remain humble. Okay. We it's not like I put in all that hard work. I finally achieved. And again, so this is, partly saying, I've already done that, right? I've already practiced the precepts. I'm now at a more advanced level. I don't need to practice those. No, that's so we have to be humble. So we still have to practice those things. And then also, of course, in terms of achievement, I become a Buddha or a saint. Well, what's the difference? I mean, I still have to continue to cultivate. I'm just like anyone else. Okay, they're always humble. All right. Diligence is the time for transforming life and achieving one's mission. So diligence gives us the time, or we put in that time to transform our lives. To from the way we were, from a sentient being into a bodhisattva, into a Buddha. Okay, so and we all have a mission in life, which is you can say maybe the primary mission is to make sure that we transcend, that we don't fall into or we get stuck into this cycle of reincarnation, that we can get out of that. And also the other missions, maybe is to help others to also get out of this cycle, right? Diligence is self-cultivation for shortening the journey and achieving one's aspirations. So the harder that we work, the more the effort that we put in, that will quicken this journey of cultivation. Okay, so obviously that means we're achieving more, or we're progressing more, or more quickly. Okay, so therefore that kind of shortens the journey to our destination, to our final goal, achieving the aspiration, right? So diligence is the self-improvement where more failures leads to greater courage, and hundreds of setbacks do not cause one to turn back, right? So don't be afraid of failures and setbacks, right? The more we all make mistakes, right? So and no one's perfect, and that's it. As long as we can learn from the mistake and improve upon ourselves as a result, then we've actually gained something. Okay, so then it's even better. So every time we do have a failure or have a setback, that we pick ourselves up, and again, this diligence is having that gung-ho, gung-ho attitude to keep pushing forward, to realizing, yes, okay, so I made a mistake, but don't dwell on that. Learn from it and move on, so that hopefully, if we learn from it, then we don't make that same mistake again, or we don't, meet with that failure again. So that's how we can progress. That's how we can achieve in the end. Okay, so we should definitely not turn back or give up anytime that there's a big, let's say a bigger setback. Then we will have basically wasted our efforts. Okay, so basically just keep pushing forward. We will have, it's true. The more we have these failures and we overcome them, the greater our courage in moving forward. Okay, so that will also build up our confidence, and maybe and also our faith to continue on this journey. Okay, so diligence is the orientation to clearly understand the logic and recognize true principles. So we have to make sure that as we learn, as we're studying, that we understand. So this is the diligence, putting in that effort to try to understand the reasoning or the principles that we're learning from. Recognizing, seeing the principles. It's just like when I'm doing these translations here. The more I do it, obviously the better I get at it. I mean, I still make those mistakes. Okay, so. But I am getting better at it. So we do have to do more. When we do more, that's the only way to improve. You don't improve by doing less. Okay, so diligence is the IQ to correct mistakes and ask questions, right, to clear up uncertainties of doubts. Okay, so we have to be intelligent enough. I mean, well, to use IQ here, but to know that we've made a mistake, or maybe someone point out the mistake to us, and to correct it. Okay, so if we don't correct the mistake, then we haven't learned anything. Okay, and so and so also to ask questions. So when we have any questions in our mind, any uncertainties or doubts, that we should always ask. In the Tao, I mean, the Tao is not. It's not about dogma. The teaching is not about dogma, which you can get in religions, where it's religious dogma, and they say you just have to accept this as the truth, and they may not explain it to your satisfaction. So you have lingering that. So in other words, you just have to have the faith, okay, the blind faith, if you will, to what they're saying is true. But in the Tao, we should. I mean, I do encourage people to ask questions if they have any questions or any uncertainties or doubts in their mind. I may not be able to answer all the questions, and maybe even you may not get the answer that you're looking for from anyone, but we try. Okay, so because having those doubts or uncertainties kind of they prevent us from. It means that we don't have, we cannot have full faith or sincerity, perhaps, in what we're doing. Okay, in this path of cultivation. Okay, so it's important that we clear them up. Diligence is the model of not being careless of mind and slacking off of body. Okay, so in our mind, of course. This is actually, it can apply to carelessness, can apply to mind and body, slacking off, the same thing. Okay, so again, it's putting in effort, right? So it's not getting lazy, and just kind of when we have a responsibility, when we have a duty to do something, that we don't just just kind of brush it off. It's nothing. I just do it, kind of superficial, if you will, or just go through the motions of kind of really of doing it, not really doing it well. Okay, so we should really, pay attention to what we're doing, focus on it, and do it well. Okay, so then we don't do things carelessly, right? Diligence is taking responsibility where one can talk after knowing and knows to take action after talking. So, we have to be responsible for what we say and what we do. Okay, so, if we know, right, so we learn stuff, we have some knowledge, then we can talk about it, right? We can teach others or talk about it to others. But then when we make sure that we also do it, in terms of, this is talking about teaching, but let's say, let's say we're talking about doing things, okay, propagating Tao or whatever in cultivation that we need to do. We talk about it, but we also have to do it. Okay, we have to take action with it. So it's not just talking the talk, but also walking the talk, right? Okay, so diligence is the repetition of one's efforts, one after another, in spite of setbacks. Okay, so, that's basically, again, this is similar to the other one where, we don't give up. We keep putting in the effort to achieve, to progress. Okay, and sometimes, we might think, why am I doing this same thing over and over again? It's like, in the past, right? I guess if you go to like a monastery, where the monks, I mean, they're like sweeping the floors. Okay, so sweeping the floors, and at the time of the Buddha, there was a disciple of the Buddha, he couldn't learn anything, right? He doesn't. His you can say his mental capacity, for remember things. I mean, he didn't have that capacity. Okay, so he couldn't remember anything. So he couldn't remember the teachings. But Buddha just said, maybe you can just focus on sweeping the floor. When you sweep the floor, you also sweep your mind clear. Okay, so if he can do that, he can also achieve nirvana. I mean, he achieved enlightenment too. Okay, just by sweeping the floor. Okay, so and that's all he did. So he, from someone else's, when we're looking at that, we see, well, that's all he did. He's not progressing, right? We don't see any progression there, that he's not getting into advanced practices. But you don't need that necessarily. We just have to keep putting in the effort to do what we know to do. In his case, obviously, he couldn't do anything else. I mean, for our case, hopefully we're more capable, that we can do more things. All right, that we can be more useful to the spreading the Tao, to saving other sentient beings. All right. So no matter what, just keep doing it. Diligence is the spiritual nourishment of earnestly practicing without hindrance and attentiveness without resistance. Okay, so again, when we can practice, put in that effort, there won't be any obstacles for us. That we will also be very focused, concentrated, attention on what we're practicing, and that will we'll be able to succeed in doing that. Okay. So that's there's diligence. Again, this is also, again, it kind of builds up builds up on our faith and sincerity as well. Okay. So to do that, diligence is the magnetic field of the attitude of talented persons and saints in daily life. Magnetic fields, it's like this, I guess, an attractive field, you could say. The attitude of talented people. Yeah, we tend to, refer to everyone as a talented person in the Tao. But, it's having that right attitude. Again, the right attitude towards, don't be afraid to take responsibility, right? And also that we should take the initiative in doing things and learning and also in practicing and also performing other duties, even if it's like not our own responsibility, or we don't think it's our own duty or responsibility to do things like cleaning maybe, but if we see that it needs to be done, we should do it. Okay, so but having this kind of attitude, it's kind of, there's this field around us, and people can feel that, right? And they notice that. Diligence is the bridge that attests to leads to the awakening of the Bodhisattva way and the fulfillment of the Six Paramitas. Okay, so ultimately, through the diligent practice, we can prove, attest to, or confirm, or verify, or prove this the way of the Bodhisattvas and fulfill the Six Paramitas. Okay, so let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, so Holy Teacher says, as long as we are diligent of mind, then how are we restricted by the external environment, right? So if our mind is very focused, very, concentration, we're sincere, and we have that faith or confidence, right, in what we're doing, then it should not be affected. That should not, so if we're going to say, I'm going to, do whatever, propagate the Tao, I'm going to recite the sutras, I'm going to learn, I'm going to practice, that should not be affected by the environment, the situation around us, okay? So in other words, we are very wholehearted, we single-mindedly pursue this whatever we're doing, okay, and don't let things, the changing environment around us affect us. Okay, so that's, you can say that's strength of mind or the will. Okay, having completed another 1,000 bows, is the body feeling sore, or has it increased our sincerity? Okay, so this is actually the scripture for this has. It came from a repentance class, actually, and so that's an advanced class. Only not everyone's qualified to attend that class, because it's actually the Buddha's kind of, you can say we get test us, and gives us some hardships, if you will. We have to endure it. Okay, so basically they, the class member or everyone there was made to, do 1,000 bows. Well, it wasn't just 1,000. They had to do several thousand bows before that. Okay, so anyways, it says, are we just feeling, the body being sore, or is it increasing our sincerity, in sincerity and faith, if you will? Okay, so sincerity in this case. Okay, so again, the Holy Teachers again keep pointing out the internal side of things. What it really means. Okay, having endured this day this experience, has it produced complaints, right? Or has it stirred up deep gratitude? Okay. Now, of course, this is because it's the repentance class. You're supposed to have gratitude, even though you're being, tested or forced to endure some hardships, right? Because they actually they actually had to, turn off the air conditioning, right? And then they've also, and it's, I guess it was pretty hot. It's hot. This was in Malaysia, I guess, so it's kind of hot there. And then they also had to either stand or kneel for long periods of time and do thousands of bows, etc. Okay, but the purpose the Buddhists do this in a repentance class is to, for us to repent, to be grateful, and also to that this can reduce our karmic debts, erase some of our karmic debts. Okay. All right. So having seen ourselves in a mirror, do we see a face or do we see through this karmic existence, right? So again, seen beyond the surface, we see through. So now we realize that this existence that we have, this life that we have, it's all due to karma, right? There's nothing, there's nothing really, you can say lasting. It's impermanent in this physical reality. Okay. So we have to go look beyond the surface. Having cleared up some sins, do we just acknowledge our mistakes for a while, or are we repentant from the beginning to the end? Okay, so again, it's like, do we just admit to our mistakes for just at that moment, and then later on we just forget about it? But we have to really truly repent and not to repeat those mistakes in the future, right? Okay, so we must reflect and introspect deeply, not just cultivate on the surface, but to be reserved. Reserved, okay, so what he means by reserved is when we see the attractions of the world, we should think about its impermanence and unpredictability. Okay, so don't be enticed, don't be tempted by the attractions of the world, okay, by the things around us. Always keep in mind that this is all impermanent. This is not real. I mean, it's not true. Okay, so and things can change at any moment, right? So again, don't just look at the surface of things. When seeing the vast throngs of sentient beings, think of no more rebirth. So that's the goal, right? So we see, all these sentient beings are here, but we want to try to achieve, transcend this rebirth, okay, cycle of rebirth, and help them to also to see that light and to transcend rebirth as well. Right? Observe with penetrating eyes and always think with profoundness of mind. Yeah, so again, observing with basically use our wisdom. Don't use our knowledge, right? If it's just based on knowledge, especially what we learn from society in society today, that's all about the material world. Okay, that's all about the mundane stuff. That's important. They say that's important, but we have to use our wisdom. We have to penetrate deeply to see what the truth is, and to use that profoundness of the mind, right? To look beyond the surface of what others might say, might tell us, right? Only in this way can we go beyond the mundane and enter the saintly or the holy, right? To go from being lost and confused to being awakened and enlightened, right? So again, to go beyond the surface, right? That is really the way to achieving this to really becoming awakened and enlightened, to become a saint or Buddha, and to not continue in this cycle of being a sentient being, okay, which is lost and confused in this world because they're so attached to the things in this world. Okay. Okay, so we must prepare for the unpredictable and impermanent in daily living. Yeah. So obviously, life is unpredictable and it's definitely impermanent. And we should prepare for that. So this is again taking more of a longer view than just looking at the here and now and satisfaction or pleasure, seeking pleasure in the here and now. Okay, so we have to consider this. We must live the true and eternal within the ordinary. So in our everyday lives, we don't live like most people, the sentient beings. Okay, we have to know what is true and eternal and live according to that. So that's our essence. That's our true essence, our true self, our Buddha nature. Okay, so that is the only true thing here in this world, really. And so we should live up to that. Okay, we must know what is normal in unusual circumstances. So yeah, a lot of times things are kind of unusual. But we have to know what is normal. Okay, so it's not like, oh, this is the normal thing, but know what is normal and proper, I guess, no matter what the circumstance is, how things change. We must cultivate normally in extraordinary circumstances again, so don't, because now, obviously, there's there might be some limitations in how we cultivate, depending on the circumstances. Like right now with the pandemic, yeah, we can't do as much propagating Tao. Right now, people, one thing, people are afraid, and then there's other restrictions there. So, but we still cultivate what we can, especially the internal side of things. We definitely. We can focus more on that during this time. So there is some flexibility in how we cultivating, but that should be based on the wisdom, right, in dealing with the circumstances. But we must not deviate from the principles. Okay, so what is normal is that we're always following the principles, no matter what the situation or circumstance. Okay, again, remember we say that the principles don't change, but when we apply them, it's not always the same, right? The application could be different, or it could be a little bit different depending on the circumstances. Okay. Okay, so it says, Holy Teacher says, the force of karma is especially sensitive, saying, the effect of causality and karma is especially accurate. Merits and faults are especially judged. To rise or fall is especially of great concern. And he's talking about these, of course, this is in this white era that we're in right now, this time that we're in right now. Things are, especially this karma is, it's everything is you can say our karma or the consequences of karma is going to be compressed into this one lifetime. Okay, if we choose this path of cultivation, that's what's gonna happen, and so so we have to be aware of that, and that's why we have to work harder. Okay, to overcome that, karma is always, causality is always accurate. Okay, they don't make a mistake. Okay, so if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right? And then so, again, careful of our merit. Well, of course, we have to have our enough merits and reduce our faults, and because we'll be judged on those. Whether we rise up to if we elevate ourselves to saint, become a saint or a bodhisattva, or if we fall to the lower paths of reincarnation, again, that's the big concern to us. So we have to make sure that we do what we can do to, in cultivation, to make sure that we are rising up. All right. Holy Teacher also says, many people don't realize the shortness and impermanence of life. Many people don't realize that it is especially dangerous to be headstrong and willful. In other words, if we're doing everything from our ego, right? So that's dangerous. Many people do not realize that popular trends are illusory and are unreal. Okay, so just don't follow the what's popular or what's the thing that's currently trending right now. Many people do not realize that pleasure and entertainment is pitiful, right? In the end, pursuing pleasure, entertainment, for a cultivator, it's not to say that we can't have a little bit of time to kind of de-stress, if you will, okay? But, we should not be seeking pleasure all the time. We definitely need to, put in our hard work, our effort, our diligence in cultivation, okay? Why? Says, because, receiving the one-point transmission, cultivating this one lifetime, the practicing diligence can transcend life and death, right? That's why he's talking about this stuff here. Okay. All right. So if we can constantly study a sutra, followed by persistently putting it into practice, then this is considered diligence. Practice what we have learned, all right, and persistently do that. Again, I say, some things are kind of hard to do, but we should still try our best to do it, and don't give up. Just keep trying, keep doing it. One day we will succeed, and we'll be able to do it. We'll get better at it. Okay, so that's diligence. Right? If we can constantly listen to the teachings of a principle, followed by persistently proving it in practice, then this is considered diligence. Okay, so again, taking what we've learned, putting it into practice. It's these two parts, okay? The two parts, they have to be in harmony, they have to be used together, right? So this embodies the know-how of knowing and implementing or practicing, okay? Actually, in that repentance class, Holy Teacher also says, if we haven't buried one person in a year, right, then how can we talk about diligence? Right? If we haven't read a Tao book in a year, then how can we talk about diligence? If we haven't studied and learned from a class topic in a year, then how can we talk about diligence? If we haven't corrected one bad habit or fault in a year, then how can we talk about diligence? Yeah, well, this is a more advanced class where Holy Teacher is kind of pushing them. This is like minimum. You got to be able to do these things. If we're getting started, that's okay. But again, we have to push ourselves. Okay, so no one can force us. If we want to achieve, if we want to succeed, then we have to keep pushing ourselves. Right? If we know but we do not practice, or we practice without knowing, then it is not true diligence. So it's not one or the other, whether we learn or know, or the practice. It's both. Okay, that's diligence. All right. So again, if we always say this, if we just learn it, it's just knowledge. You say, quote unquote, useful knowledge, but we don't use it, we don't practice, then it's not, obviously, that's useless. Okay, then we're not really diligently practicing. Okay, so, but we have to, now, on the other hand, if we think we're practicing, we're cultivating, we're practicing, but without really knowing what the principles are that we should be following, then that's also blindly, just going through the motions, and not really understanding what we're doing. Okay, so that's no good either. So we have to understand. So we have to learn, and we have to practice. Right? The skill in diligence is not about speed, but rather is to maintain continuous, wholehearted study and practice. Right? It's the turtle and the hare. Right? The race. The turtle is very slow, but consistent. Right? Continuous. but the rabbit or the hare is yeah, he goes fast, but then he takes a rest and he has to stop, and then eventually the turtle wins the race because he maintained that continuous wholeheartedness in what he's doing. So the same thing with diligence. We have to. It's not about the speed of how fast we do it, how fast we cultivate. Just make sure that we do it well. And okay, diligence is to remember what we have learned. Again, I said earlier, we don't want to forget what we've learned, so that we can always apply what we've learned. So in other words, we have to internalize what we learn, so that it is a part of us, and it's ready. If it's a part of us, then it's like part of our I don't know, use programming, so to speak. Such that when the situation arises, we just know, intuitively, we know to apply those principles or that principle at that time. Okay, we don't necessarily have to think about it and remember. I said, wait a minute. I think I remember I learned some principle that can apply in this situation. If maybe in the beginning you're like that, but we have to get to the point where it is automatic. Okay, in transforming from the mundane to the saintly, from the lost to the awakened, we must be diligent all the way. Okay, so again, this is part of the Six Paramitas, the practice, the cultivation to become a bodhisattva, a Buddha, is that we have to be diligent all the time. Okay, so to kind of summarize, it's basically diligence. You can say it overcomes inertia, the lack of will, lazy tendencies that we may have. Okay, it's vigorous effort, and positive energy with an unwavering resolve. Right, so we never give up. We keep pushing to achieve the final result or the goal, or achieving our aspiration. In the practice, the harmony or the unity of learning and studying and implementation and practice. Okay, so the two go together. We have to. We can't separate. We can't do one or the other. We have to do both. Right. So that is the Tao, is the unity or the harmony of these things. Right. So. Don't ever make excuses. We all tend to make excuses sometimes when I don't feel like it, and so I make some kind of excuse. But there are no excuses. If we're making excuses, then we're not being diligent. Find a way even when there seems to be no way. Okay, so sometimes it's like I can't get past this obstacle or this hindrance. Something is, I just can't do it. Well, we have to find a way, and we have to persevere. We have to use our wisdom. Sometimes we just have to either we have to think out of the box. Maybe it's the way we're looking at our view is not the correct view. We have to change our view of things. Then that will perhaps open it up, and it's like, oh, right. So if I changed my view, then there really is no obstacle here that I can actually do this. Okay. And then, of course, do everything to the best of our ability. And that's all that, well, any of us can ask of anyone else. And also, of course, ourselves, we do according to our ability. But we can always, this is the thing. We don't want to say, oh, my ability is only this much. I can only do this much. We don't know. I mean, we have to be able to do more. Because actually, our Buddha nature is, like I said in the beginning, is unlimited, right? Has unlimited potential, and really our limitations are, besides the physical limitations, but the rest of our limitations come from our mind. Okay, so let go, get rid of those limitations. And then we can actually do more. We can achieve more than what we thought we can achieve, right? Okay, so yeah, this is a quote. It says, work is doing it, discipline is doing it every day, diligence is doing it well every day, right? So again, it's the quality of what we're doing is the most important thing. Okay, so all right. If that's it, if I had said anything wrong or not well, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness and also the corrections from transmitting masters and lecturers. Thank you. Yeah, so we always have to say, ask for forgiveness for making mistakes, because we do make, just like I've made mistake last week, that's kind of a bigger mistake, but we're always making mistakes, little mistakes, whether we're aware of it or not. And hopefully we are aware of these things. So you can say that's also part of the diligence, is to go back and review what we've done, see if we made any mistakes. So that's part of the self-reflection, the introspection aspect, to make sure, and then to correct anything that needs to be corrected, and then we can improve. So that's part of diligence.